I was getting ready to weld this differential up for an off-road rig, and I'll be honest, there's probably some secrets you probably didn't think about when you're doing it. So let me just get straight to it and I'll show you why. I'm gonna say more than likely all your life you've been taught to weld. Just weld the four corners, you know, that's what they call welding the spiders up. And if you're just the average person, that works just fine, but if you've seen the way we drive, it don't work out. So where I'm going with this is these spiders spin. So if you was to weld just the spiders to each other, so now you've got the ring gear turning the carrier, which is trying to turn this big, well, that tire right there through that axle. Well, if you've just welded the four spider gears, all that rotational resistance is transferred to that pin. And if you see that little pin right there is not a match for an RCV, I'll go ahead and tell you. And a lot of people can testify for that if you've run these style lockers right here, clicker lockers, lunchbox lockers, ratchet lockers, whatever they want to call. They literally work off of the pin. I just have to show you. When it resists rotation right here in this pin, you can see how it's angled. It pushes against these little jaws there and clamps it together. So if anybody will speak up that's actually done it, I know we've done it 2 or 3 times, but with a locker, it sits there and puts all that pressure on that pin, it just don't work out. It's like even some of our off-road rigs we've tried before to just leave them open differential, and usually like if this tire catches a bite, it'll just send the opposite rotation and send that tire some energy, whatever you want to say. But still, if you land 2 tires on the ground and just bounce like that, it'll just shear that pin right there off. So we realize we don't want to break the pin, so what do? Well, when I weld them, I'm going to concentrate right along there and right along here and sometimes down here, and I don't even really pay attention that you're just trying to get this gear to stick to this housing right here, because just face it, that's what's carrying the load over here to drive, say, this tire, whereas you ain't gonna break this right here. So if you can get that gear to stick to this cast right there, there's gonna be some people who tell you that you can't weld casts, can't do it. If you just keep on welding and welding, this will all get the same temperature and it will work. First weld you do is probably gonna crack. Just keep on lacing her up, it'll work. But again, now that we weld this to there, get all that, that's all we're worried about, because this is bringing the power right here to the carrier. This spider right there is going to drive that axle, and then this spider is obviously going to drive this axle. But if you pay attention right there, that's all your carrier. So if you're like me and get really rowdy, this carrier right here will actually break in half. I ain't done it a whole lot, but I have done it. So you may have seen people do this where the carrier's open right there. I've just got a piece of like 1/4 inch plate and I've kind of made it fit. Doesn't have to be perfect, but that way it kind of carries some energy from this side of the carrier over here and just supports that right there from breaking. Somebody didn't check their oil and just rent this, because otherwise that's still a good one. Probably not going to do what I did on this, and I'll just show you the secret since I was here. Not going to pull the spider out, but you realize that part right there is splined, and then the shank that goes up in here rides right along in there, it's also splined. This has only happened 1 time, so maybe it's just a freak accident. But down in there you can't see, I had the spider break in half. I went and grabbed one just to show you what I was talking about, but if you see, it's splined all the way through, and when you're welding, you're only welding this part right there. So if you see how it's got that little indentation right there, I guess to carry oil, mine actually broke this part loose and then stripped these splines out. Pretty sure that's the same axle too. I don't know what RCVs are 100% made out of, but they're pretty good. But as nasty as it is, it's kind of hard to tell. I drilled plug welds and went all the way down until I touched that smooth part, and then I filled it back up with weld. Right there, did the same thing. And you can see a little bit of weld right there. I just drilled down in there till I see daylight and then just weld that part up. But hopefully that was like a freak accident, and to be honest, this front end is probably on its last leg, so I'm just going to do a regular weld on it. Maybe it'll last me a little while longer. So let me get a welder out, we'll start welding. One more secret before I forget. This one come off my shelf, so it's not very oily, but if you're using brake clean and you got a catch pan and you're laying on a jack stand, and when you pull the trigger, that weld falls into all your brake cleaner, ask me how I know. So watch out for that, but don't stress how clean it's gotta be, because once you start welding, it's gonna start burning the oil off, so be good. I forget how many steps there is to doing this. I ain't done it in a while, but this is pretty big if you want to do the right thing. So believe it or not, right now, it's kind of hard to tell because I'm moving the camera with you, but these spiders actually wiggle around. So if you weld right here with no axle in there, it's going to pull that thing around, especially the long one. For some reason, that spider will be crooked and you cannot, I mean, you have to hammer it in there. But I'm not like extremely smart, but I know that axle has some heat treating in it, and you don't want to get it as hot as you're going to get this. So stick them in there, and I'll show you when I do it. We're going to tack it up, and then we're going to pull the axles back out and do a full weld. So I've got my welder set to essentially like 1/4 inch. You can turn it up to like 3/8 setting, I guess, and it'll do it, but it's burning so hot it's trying to fall off. And honestly, you're just trying to stack material up, so don't crank it up like stupid hot. See, now I've got the axles shoved in there. I don't even have them tight. I just got them in there to support the spider. And then you might want to just rotate it around till you find you a sweet spot. I ground to the housing, and somebody's going to laugh at that because it's grounded through the bearing. Odds are, if you're welding your differential, your Jeep is not a nice one. It's going to get mud in there, and it's going to get crab, and it's going to get weld splatter. It'll work. So now we just need the spiders to stay still while we pull the axles back out. So probably going to give a tack in all 4 corners, and probably do a tack, roll it over, do a tack on the other side, and then we'll do one, I guess root pass would be the word. These are steel, so they'll hold, they won't crack. So I've got all the spiders tacked up. We'll roll it over. Same thing on this side. So now they shouldn't move. What I want to do is run like one root pass down through here. It's going to be nasty, sloppy, smoking, and that's honestly just to burn the oil off. And once we get that done, we'll pull the thing back out. Alright, so got all them welded up. We've got both sides welded on both sides, and both sides here welded on both sides. Now I'm going to pull both axles back out and actually get the carrier out, sit the thing on the, I guess, the ground, and give it some weld. This step's not necessarily mandatory, but if you're taking advice from what I do, I would do it. So when you weld this, you're going to get splatter everywhere, and that's usually a big deal on rear ends because you've got to get that pin out to do C-clip axles. This is the front. We'll do a rear end another day. But I would rather get splatter right here and be able to chisel or just simply grind it off instead of getting it on the gear. It's a beater Cherokee, but if you was trying to do it more professional, that way you can just, knock them off, see your splatter and all that stuff. And then always leave these on there, just try to protect the bearing. So now, next step, I do a bunch of welding. Oh, and low pinion, high pinion. For some reason, these bolts always seem to work loose. So I'm going to get them cleaned up, and they'll get some red thread locker on there. More than likely, this carrier will end up dead like that one, so we're not worried about the bolts coming back out in my particular situation. Go ahead and move all around, get all the oil burn off there, and then you can start laying it too. getting somewhere. Alright, you can see it's obviously hot, so I can't get too close. But I've mainly concentrated on the sides, that side over there. I did like 2 passes down through there on the spiders, the little spiders. And then just a decent weld between the spiders on the corners right there. While I was welding, that's what I was sitting there thinking. I was like, you want to attach the spiders to the carrier, which is delivering the power. If you're welding spiders to spiders, you're not connecting the spiders to what's actually giving it its thrust, I guess is the word for it. I'm trying to use big words, but now we want to get some metal to go from there to there. Had this piece of, it looks like about 1/4, maybe 5/16, just laying around, so I'm just gonna cut it there. Got me 2 little pieces. It's obviously not gonna be perfect, and I gotta get in there, and it's too hot to touch, but lay it in there, lace it up. All right, I had to make a pimp decision because it's hot. My piece doesn't fit very well, so I'm just gonna weld it 3-sided weld instead of worrying about trying to get a 4-sided weld. And it's what I always use, the example. Some people aren't breaking that housing, so if you go just a little extra mile, you got it covered. I ain't gonna video that, I'm gonna weld it up, and we'll go from there. All right, got them welded on there. It's hot. Everybody in the world's gonna tell you have to like bury it in sand and wrap it in a rag. I'm not disagreeing, but I just naturally let them cool. I've even seen some of my buddies spray them with a water hose. Don't have enough supporting evidence to give you any do's or don'ts, but I just let it air cool. You can just sit its butt over there and smoke, and when it gets ready, we'll put it in there and go full send. All right, I had to use the cold races to pick it up. They was laying on the ground, but you can see it's about 140 degrees. Hell, that ain't far from what it is outside, but it's been about 1.5 hours, I do believe, and still got some heat in it. Just as simple, those few little tacks I did. Look at all those boogers right there. So that's why I run a magnet. You can't see it, it's full of all the shavings. One guy, for some strange reason, just like, it just tore him up that I run a magnet. And that's what I don't understand. It's like, there's little slivers hiding in the thing that you're going to roll around fine. It's gears on metal bearings. It produces metal, not plastic shavings. So if you don't have a magnetic plug, glue you one down where it won't come loose. I do agree. If you just lay it in there, it will get knocked loose and cause you damage, but as long as it's secure, you're good to go. Oh yeah, I did put yeet on there. So I'm gonna check this thing for little slivers. See, like there's one, it just rolled right off. It's got a little bit, but I believe that'll just be something to kind of clamp it down right there. Got them brake clean, let's get them thread locker. We're about done. Easiest way I always do it, take that race, lay it right there. Now it's hot, crap. Flip it over, sit it inside of that one. And that. Something I've taught before, I just smear just an absolute little bit of a thread lock around on the gear like that. Not a have to, but when that dries it swells and I just kind of hold everything tight. And I'll show you one bolt. Let's see. Maybe my camera's focused, but just about that right there. Should be good. There we go. You can see. So I'm gonna get all those done, put it back together. I always start with 2 bolts, and then you can look down through the other bolt holes and line them up. And then you can spin these with your thumb. Now get the rest of them in there. Ugga-dug them down. Should be good. Gotta clean that up. Get it ready to go, but if you're a subscriber, hope you are. Got this Jeep, getting it checked out. It's all good. Then I've got this Jeep. And a handful of them should have a good video coming out for you. But I hope you learned something that you didn't know. And as far as like, this video was a comment. So I may not respond to your comments, but I promise I read every single one. It just takes me a long time, but obviously I can't respond to every single one of them. So appreciate you watching. This thing will probably get a new front end built, and I'll let y'all follow along with that. So you can build you one, go out and have fun. Have a good day.